small grant for this. The grant was awarded to us. The state actually came back, felt it was such a good project that they're actually giving us a little more money than we had asked for. The limit on the project was $2,000, and they're giving us $1,941. I think we asked for about $1,600. So it's not going to solve all our water needs, obviously. If we get, say we're able to sell 50 of these rain barrels times 50 gallons, that's only 2,500 gallons. And if we're talking 2.5 million gallons a day in the summertime, you know, it's 1/10 of 1% of that. But it kind of gets back to getting that idea of conservation out there in people's heads. You know, today's society, we kind of wake up 24 hours a day, turn on that tap, and there's water that flows from it, and we're kind of disconnected from where does that water actually come from. 50 years ago, everyone in North Reading, or 75 years ago, everyone was on their own well, and they knew real well where that water was coming from, and if they ran that tap too long, the well was going to go dry. Unfortunately, there is a connection between what we're drawing from the river and the actual volume of water flowing down the river. It's not like when we're pumping, the river immediately goes dry, but in dry summers, and the impact on the river is the amount of water being drawn by the water suppliers. What you're going to see is the water department is going to come out with some additional conservation measures over the next couple of months to try and get that message further out there in people's heads. We're going to offer to do water audits at some of our higher water users. But this grant is just, it's the first step in kind of that PR conservation program that we're trying to initiate. And it's at no cost to the town. It's basically a grant. What we're looking for is for you to approve that the water department can expend those funds.
Great. Mr. Muldoon.
Mr. Chairman, I move to expend funds in the amount of $1,941 for the rain barrel demonstration grant under Mass General Laws, Chapter 44, Section 53A.
Second. Motion and a second. Further discussion? All those in favor of the motion is made, signify by saying aye.
Aye. Aye.
Opposed? Unanimous. Thank you very much. Good luck with the grant.
Thanks.
The next item on our agenda is the April town meeting. We have street acceptance, vote of intention, order of notice. Mr. Muldoon.
You want me to read this?
Do you need to read the entire? Yes, you should. Yeah.
Mr. Chairman, laying out of a townway order of notice. The Selectmen of North Reading hereby give notice of their intention to lay out a townway from Bridle Way, from the point of intersection with Equestrian Drive at Station 0+00 to Station 9+99.28, Lady Slipper Lane, from the point of intersection with Bridle Way at Station 0+00 to Station 2+52.31, substantially in the location of a private ways known as Bridle Way and Lady Slipper Lane, under the provisions of law, and that they will meet on Monday, the 3rd day of March 2003, at 8 p.m. in the Selectmen's Office, Town Hall, North Reading, to hear all persons interested. By order, the Board of Selectmen of North Reading, this 24th day of February 2003.
Motion on the floor to vote the motion and sign the order. Right?
I read them in reverse. Sorry about that. This goes first. Vote of intention to lay out a townway. On the petition of CPC, it is voted that in the opinion of the Selectmen, common convenience and necessity require that a town way be laid out in the Bridle Way subdivision from Bridle Way, from the point of intersection with the Equestrian Drive at Station 0+00 to Station 9+99.28, Lady Slipper Lane, from the point of intersection with Bridle Way at Station 0+00 to Station 2+52.31, substantially in the location of a private way known as Bridle Way and Lady Slipper Lane, that such action be taken under the provisions of law relating to the assessment of betterments, and that notice be served as provided by law upon the owners of the land affected of our intention to so lay out such way, and that we will meet on Monday, March 3rd, 2003 at 8 p.m. in the Selectmen's Room, Town Hall, to hear all persons interested. Mr. Chairman, I move to proceed with the steps required to lay out Bridle Way and Lady Slipper Lane.
Second. Motion and a second. Discussion.
Mr. Chairman, maybe Mr. Hanlon can answer this. What we were just discussing about water lines being needed to be put into these roads, do these roads currently have water mains? And all that, it's not something we're going to be looking at?
No, they're all set.
Okay. Thank you.
Further? Other questions from the board? We have a motion and a second. All those in favor of the motion signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Unanimous.
Josh, just a sidebar, exactly.
If you please.
Okay.
Yep.
We developed the standards and specifications for the planning commission, and those are adopted, and so when those new subdivisions go in, they have to be.
That's all been taken care
Yep.
of? Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Mr. Mulder.
Mr. Chairman, I move to sign the order of notice for Bridle Way and Lady Slipper Lane.
Second. Motion and a second. Further discussion? All those in favor of the motion signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Unanimous. We also need to, Mr. Younger, do you wish to provide the board an update on the FY03
Sure.
budget?
As the board knows, we have frozen FY03 budget amounts to meet the $205,000 and $10,000 of local aid we will not be receiving from FY03. And that's on the assumption that town government assume the entire portion of that freeze. The departments have all submitted their purchase orders to freeze those amounts, and we'll continue with that freeze through the end of FY03, depending upon how everyone else's accounts are. Should someone else's areas be there's money in those accounts to pay, we may be switching, but that total amount frozen. So,
And the school department is looking at their budget.
that's correct.
Did you hear, you have not heard back from them, but they were looking at their budget to see what, if anything, they could contribute to that, as well as reviewing the retirement deficit, which is approximately $70,000.
That's correct. But as I've stated in the past, I have to take the assumption that
No, understood. Should they come forward with nothing, then we've got it covered.
that's correct.
We're not making any presumptions yet, but they are looking at the coverage of the retirement issue and what, if anything, they can contribute towards the 205. So they've been looking at that for about a week or two now, so we should be hearing something back, and hopefully in the not too distant future. And they may be discussing it tonight. Well, I'm not sure. Mrs. Bailey.
Just a question on these FY03 cuts that were, I guess, carried through for our budget for FY04 We had a list of what each department was requested to cut, plus where they had identified that they would make the cuts, right? We saw that list.
Right.
I would like to have more of an understanding of the precise impact of the cuts, and I think it's important for residents to understand the impact, because you could say, and I'll pick on DPW because they're here, and I don't have it in front of me, but if they're cutting from, reclamation pile, well, what does that mean? I mean, I understand because we've been through the process, and through the process last year, it's the materials used to fill in the potholes, but for folks to understand that these cuts do have an impact and what they are, I think if we could see them as a board and, perhaps as part of the budget discussion, understand what they mean rather than a list and a line item and the department head dealing with it and never understanding what it means.
So you want the narrative for the cut? What's the service level impact of that?
Yeah.
Of the individual
Yeah.
item? Could you prepare that, Mr. Younger?
For the whole board.
For the whole board.
It'd be helpful for the whole board.
Well, I think, and then let's include it on an agenda and go for March 3rd. We'll put it on March 3rd and go through it. Let's go through it in detail and have that discussion about what those service level cuts are. And perhaps we'll know more if there's any other contributions or changes that may impact that by then. Other FY03?
Was going to go directly into 04. I mean, as far as 03 goes, we've stated previously, building permit fees have been higher for 03 than we had originally projected. Hopefully that will continue, and that will be a good source providing free cash for future expenditures. But obviously, I don't want to include that as part of the areas to touch, because that's very fluid. If you go up, it can go down. But right, amounts there. As far as continuing regarding the FY04, obviously the governor will be proposing his budget on Wednesday. I may have some numbers tomorrow. The key for the town as a whole is what the local aid number is going to be, at least from the governor's side. Previously, when you had the governor's number, that was the number that at least you could count on as being your minimal local aid number that you had. Generally, the House and the Senate would increase the local aid number. This particular year, we can't say that's going to happen. The issue with the local aid number that will be coming out in the next 24 to 48 hours, I don't have a clue what it's going to be. Rumors are abounding everywhere of how it's going to be determined. I'm hearing, and obviously, that it may be determined based on the town's wealth. I don't know whether that's the town's valuation, free cash, how it's being determined. I've heard that. I've heard issues regarding Chapter 70, how that will be determined. Rumors based on how high you are above foundation or below foundation may determine how much Chapter 70 you receive. None of those bode well for us at this point. So,
You're trying to cheer me up?
Because it's not working. I wish I could. I mean, we did take the conservative approach of taking at least in our budgets a reduction of 10% in local aid. If any of those formulas come to fruition, it's going to be higher than 10%. But at this point, not one manager in the Commonwealth knows what the numbers are going to be or the formulas. They're keeping it very tight. They're not letting the information out. I'm making the assumption that we're probably going to be over 10%. And at that point, effectively, if it's tomorrow or Wednesday, I go back and we have to readjust the numbers. Because that is probably the minimum that you're going to see the reduction in local aid. The House and Senate may go further, they may not, but there will be a reduction, and there's a distinct possibility it's going to be greater than 10%.
Thanks for that cheery news. Sort of saw it in the paper this morning.